to believe that his decision to try to run for a third term as president does have the potential to jeopardize a lot of the achievements that he himself has made, including ushering in a new constitution with a two-term limit for presidents. So, he's had 2 terms. He supported a constitution with 2 terms, and we want to see him be a leader in paving the way for a new generation of African leaders and solidifying his own stature as a Democrat in this way. Senegal has a vibrant democracy, a vibrant civil society, and we call on everybody to participate peacefully in this process.
They are a recipient of Millennium Challenge account funds, which have some pretty stringent conditions on good governance. Are these two conflicting?
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We need to see what the Senegalese Supreme Court, Constitutional Court says. We need to see how Senegalese political figures respond to that, and then we'll go from there.
President Museveni in Uganda also supported a constitution that had a 2-term limit. And you said nothing, this building said nothing, not you, you weren't in this job, but said nothing when he went and launched, amended the constitution to allow for a 3rd term. And if I'm not mistaken, he's being, Deputy Secretary Burns is in Uganda today talking with President Museveni. Why Senegal? Why can't the Senegalese leader do the same?
Again, we think it will be better for Senegal if a next generation comes forward. Please, Catherine?
Warren Weinstein, there's a report in Pakistan that says he's alive, and Warren Weinstein, the American contractor who was kidnapped. Do you have an update, or have you seen these reports?
I don't have anything new on Warren Weinstein. If we have anything new out in our embassy, we'll let you know, but I don't have anything new today, unfortunately.
Can we stay just with Americans in distress for a second, or non-distress?
Or was it Pakistan stuff? No.
This is going to be very brief. Nigeria, the guy who was kidnapped there in the Delta last week has been released. Do you have any details about that?
Well, obviously, we're very happy to see these reports that William Ock has been released by his captors. We, from our consulate in Lagos, are ready to help. But I don't have any further information.
Well, it's the embassy in Abuja that's actually confirming this. What do you mean we were very happy to see these reports? You're saying that the embassy hasn't?
I'm interested that our embassy has confirmed it, because as of my coming down here, we were not in a position to confirm it because we didn't have a Privacy Act waiver on the conversations that our folks may or may not have had with his relatives.
His sister says that you've been in touch with him and that you say that he's safe. So
well, it's the usual thing. Then we don't have a Privacy Act waiver. So there you go.
Well,
Arsha.
Can you say that this guy has been released or not? I'm not asking you who he is.
We've seen the reports.
But the reports are quoting by name the embassy spokeswoman.
Well, I had not seen that. So if in fact that's where we are, we will be even more effusive.
Different topic. Twitter, as you I think will be aware, has put out a blog post in which it explains that it is going to give itself the ability to block certain content in certain countries. And I wanted to ask what the State Department thinks about that, particularly in the light of the appeal that the department made to Twitter in Iran following the elections to try to maintain open lines of communication. In censoring, or in giving itself the ability to censor, is it not perhaps becoming a tool of regimes who do not want to see the kind of freedom of expression that the United States so often from this podium champions?
Well, first, just to affirm that, as the Secretary has made clear on numerous occasions, we're strongly committed to protecting fundamental freedoms of expression, assembly, association online, as the Secretary said in her Internet Freedom speech. The choices that private companies make have an impact on how information flows or doesn't flow on the Internet and mobile networks. They also have an impact on what governments can and can't do and on people on the ground. Smart companies need to develop broad principles that guide their action, and in the tech field, this includes principles on freedom of expression, privacy, criteria on when to avoid working with governments that use technology to become more efficient at committing human rights violations, these kinds of things. I think in the Twitter case, what we see here is a company making very clear what its policies are going to be in these circumstances where the choice is operate not at all or operate in a constrained way. So from that perspective, being honest about what you're up to is in keeping with these standards, but until we see how they are implemented and how it impacts on content, we obviously can't evaluate whether this is, a good thing or not for internet freedom.
Being transparent about your censorship is better than just censoring?
Well, we have a number of examples of companies that, are not as upfront about what they do. And at least this way Twitter users can know what is up. But again, until we see how this is implemented, I don't think we're in a position to evaluate.
And would you not have preferred perhaps that, it's a private company, it has its own board, it can figure
Right.
out what it wants to do.
Right.
That said, would it not have been preferable to you if they had taken a clear, bright line that they were not going to compromise? So, if Twitter ever gets to North Korea, presumably criticism of the new leader will not be permissible. Wouldn't you rather just have them say, look, if you're going to use our service, you can say whatever you want?
Well, Twitter has stated publicly that it is committed to abiding by fundamental freedoms of expression and association and assembly and to being transparent. So I think we will refer you to Twitter as to how these decisions of the company, as you say, private company, impact that overall statement.
You don't have a preference about it?
We're not going to be dictating to this one company or another. We're setting out the general principles. As I said, there are many companies out there that make these decisions without being transparent, either to their users or to the world. Twitter's been upfront about what they're doing. I think we have to see how it works.
Right, but as a prolific, some might say over-prolific user of Twitter and a prodigious consumer of Twitter, surely the department has some concerns about what might happen to its own tweets, say its Farsi tweets. No?
Well, I think we've spoken about where we are. We need to see how this is implemented, obviously.
Well, but if you're not confident your message is getting out without redaction to the audience that you expect to have,
Again,
are you going to continue to will you continue to use this social media platform?
you are asking me to evaluate the implementation of this policy that they've announced before they've implemented it,
no,
so I think we're going to wait and see it.
Well, but I'm just
Again,
asking.
we've made the general points, so but I can't speak to
No,
how
but-
it might affect our use of this
Well, but
unless
have
and
you
until we
raised
see
those
it implemented.
concerns with the company? I mean, have you said, hey, look, we don't want our stuff being censored?
I think this was announced today, so we have to see
Yesterday,
how it
actually.
was implemented.
But there has obviously been some thought put into the guidance that you just read us. There is no concern, you have not expressed any concerns to Twitter about how this might affect U.S. government or State Department use of this medium.
I can't speak to whether we've had conversations with Twitter in the last 24 hours. I will let you know if we have anything to say on that front. Josh?
So Russia Today.
Russia Today?
Yeah,
Staying on the same fundamental
Still on
freedom.
Twitter?
More
No, on on Google.
Go ahead.
Google has announced that it's going to use all the personal data of its users without giving an option to opt out. Have you commented on that? Do you have anything?
I haven't
is
seen
gonna
that. I'm not sure that it's an issue for us to comment on.
Russia
Josh?
Today, the Russian government funded television and information service that broadcasts in English, including here in Washington, has struck a deal with Julian Assange to produce a television show. I'm wondering what your comment is on it.
That's also news to me. I will take that one. I had not seen that. I think you know our general view on that whole complex of issues. Please.
Can we have
No,
a
Julian Assange.
readout of the meeting between Secretary Clinton and the President of the Inter-American Commission of Human Rights, Dina Shelton?
I don't have a readout. We have, we put out, actually we did, we either just put out or we're about to put out a media note on the meeting here, so why don't I let that happen? But she did meet with Professor Dinah Shelton earlier today. And she had an opportunity to stress the United States' support for the work of the Commission and its rapporteurs, and she announced an increase in U.S. financial support for the Commission. But let us put out our broader note on that, and you'll have a chance to look at that.
Argentina?
Yeah.
Elliot Abrams has testified in the trial of two former Argentine presidents who were accused of masterminding the scheme to kidnap and place for adoption the children of political prisoners during the Dirty War. And he basically said that this department was very much aware of it and considered it a serious humanitarian issue, but they did not seem to get anywhere with the Argentine leadership. What more can you say about what the U.S. government knew about the abduction and then the subsequent adoption of these children of political opponents?
Well, Roz, in 2002, we released and declassified a whole package of documents related to human rights abuses and political violence in Argentina between 1975 and 1984. These documents include the period of the dictatorship, the 1976 to 83 dictatorship preceding events, and the return to civilian governance. So these were State Department cables, other reports. So I'm going to refer you to those. They're quite a rich treasure trove of what we knew and of our own efforts. Okay, in the back.
Assistant Secretary Campbell will travel to South Korea next week. What is the purpose of his travel on this time?
I think on that one we're also either about to put out a media note, on that one. As you know, he makes frequent trips to visit our allies throughout the East Asia Pacific region. This will obviously be about the full range of bilateral issues, but obviously to continue to consult on our efforts to get North Korea to come clean on its nuclear program and come back to the table.
Discussion about the six-party talks.
Always. Please. Yeah.
The U.S. and Korea are going to have joint military exercises. How do you think the North Koreans will react to that in this delicate time?
Well, my understanding is this is a routine exercise, that the North Koreans are aware of it. So obviously we would call for calm, but I would refer you to the Pentagon. They're the managers of the exercise. Yeah. All right. Thanks, sorry. Yeah.
Do you have any comments or information on the reported sentencing of 20 Uyghur asylum seekers deported back from Cambodia to China?
Yeah. Well, these are 20 Uyghurs who Cambodia deported to China in 2009, and we are concerned that China has reportedly sentenced two of them to life in prison. We're seeking to confirm these reports with the Chinese. As you know, we have repeatedly called, the United States government has repeatedly called on the Chinese government to provide information on the whereabouts of all 20 of the Uyghur asylum seekers, to allow access to them by international agencies and to treat them in accordance with international human rights obligations and commitments.
Back when that happened, you were urging the Cambodians not to send them back, and warned that there would be consequences to the U.S. relationship, to their relationship with the U.S. if they did. As far as I know, there never really were any consequences, and in fact, they got a rather lengthy trip from Secretary Clinton just in November 2010. Were there any consequences as a result of the deportation or of their handover of the Uyghurs?
Well, I don't have the facts from 2009 at my fingertips. I think you were sitting in that very chair yourself when this went down, and you likely do recall that we made some.
I remember asking several times afterwards and never getting a response.
My understanding was
Matt was actually in this
in
chair.
this chair. There you go. And why did you
2009?
switch chairs? What
Oh,
happened?
no, I'm sorry.
I've got one
There you
last
go.
one, which you probably won't have an answer to, but just any update on the situation with this American in Somalia being held? Is there anything new on that?
I think I don't have anything further to what we had yesterday. Okay. Wait.
Would you
Sorry.
mind just backtracking to Egypt real quick? Has there been any invitation extended to the IRI members for them to seek refuge in the ambassador's residence?
I don't think that they are asking for that. They are in constant contact with the embassy, including with regard to their personal safety. Yeah. Thank you.